Thanks for tuning into the 8th episode of the MMA Roundtable, where two big happy families come together to talk shit about MMA. We got the MMA podcast, myself and Chris, and our regular caller and new face to the roundtable, our buddy Ramses, and of course, you got Ray and Patrick from the MMA Roundtable, along with our buddy Buffalo Dave. Got a bunch to talk about. UFC on Fuel 6, UFC 154, a slew of news. So without any further let's get to it. And like I mentioned, big shout out to everyone listening. Shout out to Ramses, his first appearance on the MMA Roundtable, hopefully the first of many, and to our partners, MMA Mental. And you can listen to this show, the MMA Roundtable, live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And without any further ado, let me pass it off to Ray so he can plug MMAmental.com, right?
Thank you very much. Me and Patrick did a great show last night. We had an absolutely fantastic guest, so it's definitely worth coming to www.mmamental.com to listen to the show. We were joined by Rich Rarebreed Hale, and we chatted with him for a good half an hour, and he gave us a good insight into his MMA career and his Bellator tournament, because obviously he's done well and made it to the final so far. And after I spoke to him yesterday, I've messaged him again today, and has agreed to do an audio diary with us in the build-up to the final as well. So we're going to do a daily audio diary with him in the build-up to the final, which obviously we're really, really excited about.
That's awesome. Yeah, we didn't have any guests yesterday, but we did have a really awesome podcast. Went a little over 2 hours, had a fun time. We had a presidential debate between Chris and Ramses. Chris representing Team GSP, Ramses staunch believer in the fact that Carlos Condit will prevail at UFC 154, and we'll definitely get back to those points when we break down the fights. You can listen to the MMA podcast every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We are finally getting Lenny Hart, the voice of Pride, on the podcast next Wednesday. Really looking forward to that. Hoping she gives us one of her signature calls for the MMA podcast. And as always, you can tweet us at the MMA podcast or visit our website. Still don't have the telephone thing figured out completely, but if you would like to join in on the conversation, you can Skype chat us, and the Skype chat name for that is J, the letter J, and Silent Bob, and our buddy Chris can patch you into the call. So yeah, enough plugging our bullshit. Let's get to last weekend's fight. We had UFC on Fuel 6. Really, going into the co-main event, I was unaware until I talked to Ray, but that was about to be the first card ever to have all decisions, top to bottom. Luckily, the main and co-main kind of fixed that, so there was somebody to get a knockout and submission of the night. But let's start off with Dong Yong Kim defeating Paulo Thiago via unanimous decision. Stun gun, doing what he does best, quelling his other opponent, not giving Paulo Thiago any chance to really implement any part of his game plan, taking it 30-27, 30-27, 30-26, and really wanted to get your thoughts on the fight, along with the fact that Kim, after the fight, said he wanted a rematch with Damian Maia. Does he necessarily deserve it? I think he does, based solely on the fact that the first Maia-Kim fight was such a freak finish. He gets chest spasms and is unable to continue. So I'll pass it off to Patrick. Patrick, what did you think about that fight, and you think Kim deserves that rematch?
I think he had a really good showing against Paulo Thiago. It wasn't your typical Dong Yong Kim smothering, just top control base. He really he put some sick ground and pound on Thiago, and he was working hard for the finish. Came close to getting it. I'd like to see him rematch Damian Maia, but perhaps just not at this point. I really like the momentum Maia has going. I'd like to see where that run will take him before he starts going down the rematch road. And Dong Yong Kim had a nice rebound fight, so I think they should go their separate ways before they make that one again.
Ramses? Are you there, Ramses?
Sorry, I had my mic moving. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Not like we ever do that.
Yeah. Look, Yum Yum Kim, he does not deserve another shot against Damian Maia. I'll tell you a quick story. When their first fight went down against Damian Maia, I actually bet on Yum Yum Kim. I bet $20 on him. And then when I saw, of course it was over in a couple seconds, and when I saw him collapse to the ground, with apparently nothing wrong with his ass, I being the conspiracy guy, I thought he took a dive. The fact that he didn't come up with any injury after the fight, what's he saying, was just a spasm? I got to stick to my theory. I've seen nothing to suggest that he did not take a dive. So, rematching Damian Maia, sorry, man. You already threw the first fight. You gave up. You gave up because you had a little pain somewhere. You don't deserve it just because of some crazy spasm in your chest or whatever. That's like giving Chael Sonnen a third fight against Anderson Silva because he slipped and fell last time, and it wasn't fair. No, sorry, Yum Yum Kim. You're done. Let's get someone better to finally get rid of this Damian Maia guy, who I also hate.
Wow, that was some strong words, but I think I'm going to side more with Patrick on this one. Maia is just, he's gained too much momentum right now, and there's bigger matchups for him out there before he goes back to Yum Yum. Yeah, if Maia gets a new match with, like Diaz or Finch, like he wants, loses, then I can see that rematch happening. But up until then, I don't think it's the right time for it right now.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I mean, personally, I thought the performance by Dong Hyun Kim, I don't know who Yum Yum Kim is, I'm joking, Dong Hyun Kim, I thought he looked really, really impressive. Thiago is a very good fighter. He's no can, and he completely smashed Thiago. And like Patrick said, he didn't just control him. I mean, he put some a good beating on him as well. I hadn't heard the conspiracy theory about him taking a dive, and personally, I've never seen that from him before. I don't see why he would do that now. So I honestly don't buy that. I think Maia has looked very good against Rick Story. I think Kim looked good against Thiago. I think their first fight was obviously anticlimax because we didn't really get a fight. So yeah, I'd love to see the rematch. I'd be on board for it, and I'd be picking Maia to win as well.
Pre-Rick Story fight, I'd be inclined to agree with you, Ray, but seeing as how he's run through such top guys like that, I think they really need to give Damian Maia a top 5 guy, or at least a fight that kind of makes sense, barring that injury. I don't think it would fare too well for Dong Hyun Kim the second time around, and I really think that he needs to face some stiffer competition. Ultimately, I'm still rallying behind my Nate Marquardt rematch idea. After Nate gets past Tarek Saffiedine in the swan song of Strikeforce, I really feel that Marquardt coming in, his first fight against Maia would be fantastic and stellar, and really be kind of I know I always say it, but the true litmus test for Damian.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. Moving on into the co-main event, Thiago Silva coming back. I had him losing the first 2 rounds against Stanislav Nedkov. You really love seeing a guy needs to finish a fight to win, and Thiago Silva did just that, getting the arm triangle choke just about 2 minutes into the final stanza. And the question that pops into my mind is what's next for Thiago Silva? We actually spoke about it on the MMA podcast yesterday, and Chris, you made a really good point. I threw 2 possible opponents out there, Ryan Jimmo and Matt Hamill, and you agreed a lot more with the Ryan Jimmo fight because Hamill has the tools to make that a boring fight, and Ryan Jimmo versus Thiago Silva, one of the hardest 205-pound bangers against Brazil, against probably the best Canadian light heavyweight in the UFC right now, Ryan Jimmo, both dudes who have incredible power behind their hands. So yeah, I'll pass it off to our boy Ramses with a strong take on the Yum Yum Kim Paulo Thiago rematch versus Damian Maia shit. What do you think is next for Thiago Silva, Ramses?
Nothing's next for Thiago Silva, and that's fine. He's fine with it too. He is now a gatekeeper. I'm sorry to say, if you look at it, it's not. Nobody's saying, "Oh man, let's get another fight for Thiago Silva. Who's he going to fight next?" That's not the way the UFC even looks at it. They're looking at they're looking at their up and comers and they're saying which one's going to fight Thiago Silva next, which one's at that level. Basically, Thiago Silva, he should have been kicked out of the UFC after the Gustafsson loss, as far as I'm concerned, man. That was his third loss in a row, even though, one of them was overturned decision. Because what, he's juicing or what? I forget what he failed the drug test for.
It was horse urine. Yeah.
Horse urine.
Oh, okay. Oh, you handed in another species' urine. That's great. That's great, Thiago. That's why you'll never see him become a champion. Here's the new champion of the UFC, the guy who handed in horse piss that one time. It ain't gonna happen. Every time they put this guy up against a real big name and contender, he has lost. Yotam cheated over Shad Evans. Gustafsson pretty much kicked his ass. I don't see him going anywhere. He is a UFC gatekeeper. He's a damn good one, exciting to watch, fun fights, solid fights. You know it's going to be an actual brawl with him. Something's going to go down. But he's not advancing anywhere. He had his shot probably 2 years ago was his prime time, and he blew it. Sorry.
Yeah, with Silva, I pretty much wouldn't mind seeing the Vera rematch. It was supposed to go down after the suspension was lifted, but I forget who got injured. I don't know if it was Vera or Silva. One of them got injured where the fight was called off, and then we ended up getting, Silva versus Nedkov. But for me, I would really like to see that Vera rematch with, clean slate, no horse piss, and see how it goes from there. I'm just really not that impressed the way Silva's been fighting. He looked like a killer at the beginning of his career. Now he's just kind of fighting a little, I wouldn't say scared, but he's kind of fighting safe in my eyes. Never really been a big fan of his, but no, just never did nothing for me.
I think what you're trying to say is he's a little bit gun shy. He's not kind of letting go like he's been known for. I mean, this fight with Nedkov. I was surprised the fight lasted as long as it did. But with what we've seen of Nedkov in the past, I know he'd only had the one fight. His punches look wild. There's no technique. He just swings his punches, and he didn't look like he had good cardio, and he's shown that. If you can't fight for 15 minutes, then really you need to go back to the drawing board and get yourself so you can at least do that, because that's just got to be a minimum. And of course, Thiago Silva can fight for 15 minutes, and the fact that he got a sub, I think that kind of says it all, because he's not known for his submissions. We know he can do it, but that's not what he's known for. But Nedkov just gave him that submission because he didn't have any steam left. As for who he fights next, I still like Thiago Silva. I think I still think he's a good fighter, and he has lost his last few fights, but he's lost to good fighters. And obviously I saw him fight live against Gustafsson. I thought it was a pretty good fight. Gustafsson's one for the future, so I don't think there's any shame in losing that. But I'd put him up against another up-and-coming guy, another guy who's on the up, who's going to make an impact, and see if Thiago Silva can upset the run. And the fight I'd like to see him go against is kick out Rampage Jackson, because I've got no interest in seeing Rampage Jackson fight at all, because he just doesn't want to be there. And let Thiago Silva take on Glover Teixeira. I think that would be a really good fight. And I think Thiago Silva fights up to competitions. If he's fighting someone better, I think he'll fight better.
Yeah, Thiago Silva to me has always been an exciting fighter. He's a super aggressive Muay Thai guy. The biggest glaring hole in his game is his proficiency and technique on the feet. He leaves a lot to be desired. I think he just leaves so many holes open for his opponents to capitalize at the highest level. He shored up his wrestling. It's looked better. His jiu-jitsu, he's obviously a black belt. And then you have Nedkov, who he's a fire plug, and he's very aggressive, an exciting guy. But this is kind of like Phil Davis beating Wagner Prado. It's a high-level guy facing a dude who probably shouldn't have been in there with him. And even though he rose to the occasion and put it to Thiago Silva, he still lost emphatically. So I don't think we learned too much from Thiago Silva. Like Ray and Ramsey's brought up, is that every single stiff test he's ever had, he has failed. So I think ideally for me, he should fight the winner of Forrest Griffin versus Phil Davis. I think either of those guys would be a good test. I think Davis is going to win. So Phil Davis versus Thiago Silva makes the most sense for me.
For me, I had Thiago Silva and Stanislav Nedkov tied up going into the third round. I would have given it two rounds to none going into the third for Thiago Silva. If it weren't for the Nedkov punch that dropped him at the end of the second round, I just think Thiago Silva, he did a decent job in my eyes just because he was outstriking Stanislav Nedkov at every point of the game. When it was standing at range, he was outstriking him. In the clinch, he was outstriking him. He was stuffing all the takedowns. So really, by definition, there was very little effective that Stanislav Nedkov was doing in my book. It was all Thiago Silva, and as it has been mentioned before, Nedkov gassed out in the third round, and he was getting lit up on the feet, and ended up getting submitted on the ground. And that's, pretty much how I think most of us saw that fight going. Silva finishing Nedkov. As far as who he takes on next, I'd like to see him take on like a James Tahuna or someone like that. Perhaps Phil Davis. He's coming off a win. He needs a high-profile victory himself. So let's see just how improved Thiago Silva's takedown defense really is.
Yeah, y'all make pretty salient points. I don't think anyone thinks he's a threat to the belt right now, but it'll be interesting going forward to see whether the UFC gives him a more staunch test than Stanislav Nedkov, especially after Nedkov took those first 2 rounds against him. And we'll move on to the main event before we get on to the news and guess that tweet, which will be right after us covering this card. We had Kung Lee defeating Rich Franklin via knockout in the first round. Super visceral knockout. Rich Franklin planked. Franklin throws a single kick. Kung Lee hits him right on the button, knocks him out cold. We've never seen Rich Franklin knocked out like that before. And it kind of brings up the question, kind of like it does with Thiago Silva. What's next with Kung Lee? I think none of us think that Lee's a threat for the title, kind of like Thiago Silva. But will we see Lee take on legitimate middleweights going forward, or will he just kind of be a sideshow? Put him up against interesting stylistic matchups. Obviously, him against a really good wrestler who will grind you out. I don't know if Lee's going to win that fight, but do you put him up against strikers so you have more interesting fights for Kung? Where does Kung Lee go from here?
Right, I'm going to upset the apple cart now because you missed my little message saying I was going to jump in. I just wanted to chuck another name out there for Thiago Silva, and maybe it's because I'm based in the UK, but another up-and-coming guy who likes to stand and bang is Jimmy Manuwa. So that's another name to chuck out there as well as a possible opponent for Thiago Silva. Right, Dave, you're back on, mate.
All right, now back to Kung Lee. I personally think I would love to see him go against Lombard if and when he should beat Rosemary Paul Harris. I think that would be a great fight. Both guys are a little bit smaller. There wouldn't be no really height or reach advantage. I think it would be fireworks. I think it would be a great fight to watch.
Right, back to me again. Right, when I was thinking about this fight, a fight for Kung Lee, I was kind of thinking, right, he's never going to fight for a title. He's kind of towards the back end of his career. So who's a good guy to fight? You want to put him in with someone who's going to stand with him, really, because you want at this time you want kind of showcase fights, I think. And the guy that comes to mind for me, I think would be a really good fight versus Kung Lee is Chris Lieben. I'd love to see Kung Lee versus Chris Lieben.
That's a fantastic pick for him. As far as the fight went, it's sad to see Rich get finished like that, but obviously his chin just can't take it. He's on a kind of a Chuck Liddell trajectory. He hasn't really been finished emphatically since he fought Vitor a while back, but the fact is he hasn't really been facing super, super top competition as of late. And, Kung Lee, from here, he's 41 years old, and he's not only training part-time, but he's doing movies. So, it's just one of those things where I can't take the guy too seriously. If he wants to be a true contender, which I don't think he actually does, then he has to stop doing the movie stuff and focus. So I think from here on out, it's just going to be kind of sideshow or entertaining fights that they're going to put together. And I personally can't think of anyone better than Chris Lieben to face off against Kung Lee. That's a very perfect stylistic matchup. I can't really think of anyone else at middleweight who isn't booked for a fight that has the kind of style that Chris Lieben could bring to Kung Lee. So good choice.
I have to agree. Ray doing Joe Silva's job well here. I think, Kung Lee versus Chris Lieben, that'd be very good. I think there's a lot of killers out there at 185. A lot of them, most of them lined up for fights. I would have liked to see Kung Lee fighting Alan Belcher. I think that would be a sick fight. Both have great striking styles. But yeah, I believe Belcher's booked at the moment. So I think Lieben and Kung Lee is a good fight.
Ramses?
Okay, the question is, where does Kung Lee go from here? He should. I think I'm having mic problems. Hold on, let me reconnect. Actually, guys.
You sound good.
You sound fine. Yeah, you sound fine.
He was fucking with
okay.
you because you were muted.
Oh, Ray, is Ray that UK bastard?
He's that son of a bitch from the UK.
Welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well,
reconnect.
Oh, we all know who's who. May I continue?
Yes.
All right. Now, Kung Lee, the question is, where does Kung Lee go from here? I'll tell you right now, he better go straight to DVD, all right? He doesn't want to go to the big theater in the UFC. That's for damn sure. This guy, it was a miracle that he beat Rich Franklin. I mean, he was even surprised about that fucking punch. If you look at it in slow motion when he's throwing it at Rich Franklin, you see Rich kind of wince for a second, like Rich even saw it coming, and then he was like, "Nah, this guy ain't gonna hit me." But no, he knocked him out. He knocked him out cold, man. And it wasn't an iron fist, all right. That was all Rich Franklin's glass jaw. Fuck the iron fist. Kung Lee, lucky punch. He knows it. He's lucky. He's lucky to still have his health right now. He should quit while he's ahead. Actually, I really don't. Why does he have to keep fighting in the UFC? He doesn't. He earned a little street cred here with this win, with this knockout over Rich Franklin. He should just ride that back to the Hollywood, or I guess I don't know what they have over there in Japan or whatever. Whatever the equivalent of Hollywood is over there in Japan, that's where Kung Lee goes next. Thanks.
Damn, our resident Alex Jones taking controversial takes on those three fights. And the three bonuses go to Takanori Gomi and Mac Danzig for fight of the night, Kung Lee for knockout of the night, and Thiago Silva for submission of the night. Silva and Lee kind of getting those bonuses by default. Each one of those fighters getting a $40,000 bonus. And before we move on to the news, let's go to Guess That Tweet. Dave's going to be hosting it this week, and we're actually tied up now with an even six-person roster. We have myself, Chris, and Ramses on Team MMA Podcast, Ray, Patrick, and Dave on Team MMA Mental. It's tied up 3-3, everybody with one win, except for myself with 2, and Ramses with 0, as he has not competed in Guess That Tweet yet. So, Dave, I will pass it along to you. Take it away, buddy.
All right. Is everybody ready?
Oh, yeah.
We're ready.
Hell yeah.
Born ready.
First tweet. Holy shit. Tony Romo didn't fuck up a play. Was that Brendan Schaub, Johnny Hendricks, Yves Edwards, or Matt Trione?
Did you say Tony Romo?
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? I think, I want to say I saw that tweet on Sunday, and I took offense to it because Tony Romo's the man. People need to show some fucking respect. I'm sorry. I'll say Brendan Schaub.
Yep, you stole my thunder. I'm going to say Schlub as well. He's an ex-football player, and it sounds like a meathead thing that he would say. So I'm going Brendan Schlub.
I'm going to say it's not Yves Edwards. He doesn't really curse. Shout out to the Thug Jiu-Jitsu master, by the way. So I'm going to have to also go with Brendan Schaub. I have no idea.
I don't know anything about the sport. Don't care too much about the sport. But just to be different, and I know he used to play the sport, I'm going to go for Matt Mitrione.
Yeah, we have 2 ex-NFLers in Schaub and Mitrione. What were the other 2 options, Dave?
Johnny Hendricks and Yves Edwards.
Johnny Hendricks just seems like too nice of a person to call out somebody playing football. So, also like Ray to be different, I'll go with Yves Edwards.
All right. Well, it wasn't the two former NFL stars, or not stars, two NFL players, and it wasn't Texas' own Johnny Hendricks. The correct answer was Yves Edwards.
Suck it, bitches! Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, I follow Yves Edwards on Twitter too. That's God damn it.
You shouldn't anymore. He's failed you, sir.
Dave,
He's a friend of the show.
Send us the answers like we normally do. You've got to send MMA Mental the answers.
I know, I forgot.
You can't.
My bad. All right, second question. So, Dave Herman agreed to drug rehab. WTF, it's weed, bitch. Was that Pat Barry, Mayhem Miller, Dwayne Ludwig, or Chris Tickle?
Man, this is one of the hardest games we have on this show. I mean, I could see it being any one of those guys, really. You want to run those down one more time?
We have Pat Barry, Mayhem Miller, Chris Tickle, or Dwayne Ludwig.
You know what? I'll go with what is seeming like the odd man out. I'm going to go with Dwayne Ludwig on this.
Alrighty, interesting choice. I'm going with the Tickler, Chris Tickle, because he's got the same name as me, and he seemed like goofy enough to post something like that. And for some odd reason, he seems out of place in that list. So I'm going Chris Tickle.
I didn't know you had the same name as Tickle. I didn't know you were a Tickle. I'm thinking it was either Chris Tickle or Pat Barry, and my first instinct was Chris Tickle, so I'm going to go Chris Tickle as well.
I think it was. I remember seeing fucking Mayhem Miller post a few tweets about weed. So I think this might have been one of them. It sounds like something he would be posting. Mayhem Miller.
You know, I sort of feel like Dave wanted to throw us off track with the NFLers in the last tweet. Mayhem Miller, loudmouth. Pat Barry, loudmouth. Chris Tickle, loudmouth. I don't really know Dwayne Ludwig as a loudmouth. Fuck it, Dwayne Ludwig.
All right. Well, it wasn't Mayhem, wasn't Tickle, wasn't Pat Barry.
Oh, yeah! Suck it.
You on two now?
Yes, I am, bitches.
You know, I can't even be mad. You're on my team. Fuck you guys.
Jake, you're a cheat.
Fighting.
I want blood tested. And I don't want horse piss.
You'll find copious amounts of marijuana.
Yeah, I would probably fail it just like Dave Herman did.
Hey, that's all right, Ray. I got us 1 point.
All right, here goes the next one. Terrorists follow me on Twitter. These pussies either want to put up a fatwa on me or want me to teach them how to fight. Was that Bas Rutten, Eddie Bravo, Joey Coco Diaz, or Pat Miletich?
Oh my god, that's so hilarious. That's got to be Joey Diaz, referencing any kind of holy war.
What was the first option, Mr. Davey?
Bas Rutten.
Yeah, okay. So Bas Rutten, that's fitting, but he wouldn't be creative enough to do something like that. I mean, he is a creative guy, but that doesn't seem fitting. And the second option was?
Eddie Bravo.
Eddie Bravo. Definitely not going to do that. I got to go Coco. That sounds like a Coco thing. Sorry to ride your coattails there, P-Money, but I got to do it.
Hey, it's all right. Jake already did.
You want the tweet?
The tweet? Yes, please.
Terrorists follow me on Twitter. These pussies either want me to put up a fatwa out on me or want me to teach them how to fight.
Right, I don't want to go with a grade, so I'll go with Pat Miletich.
I gotta say, I don't see Bas Rutten throwing around that he wants to fatwa. I don't think he knows that word. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go Pat Miletich also, because he's a likely target of the terrorists out of all those people. What are they gonna do to Joey Karate, man? They know they can't touch him. Pat Miletich.
Yeah, part of me wants to go with Joey Diaz, but I don't see why if terrorists followed him, his first response would be, oh, they want me to teach him how to fight. You know, he's not always in that Joey Karate character. You know, Boss was just in a kid's movie. He isn't going to say, you know, oh, these pussies want to fight. So between Eddie Bravo and Pat Miletich, Ray and Ramses, you all went with Miletich, so just for even though I think it's Miletich, just for the sake of levity, I'm going to go with Eddie Bravo.
Ready for the answer?
No.
Do it.
All right. Well, it wasn't Boss. You guys are all right on that. Wasn't Eddie Bravo.
Fuck!
Wasn't Joey Diaz, you cocksucker.
Yes!
I knew it!
was Pat
I
Miletich.
fucking knew it! God damn it! So everyone has 1 point except me with 2 and Chris with 0.
Cunts. You cunts.
How many have you got, Chris?
I've got 0, but you know what? I have won a game. You said I never would, and I did it, and I die happy knowing that I beat you boys. I'm a goddamn warhawk.
All right. Next tweet. How come a sandwich always tastes better when someone else makes it for you? Now, these will all be guys from Team Alpha Male. That was kind of funny. They're talking about sandwiches since they're all skinny little bitches. Was it Danny Castillo, Chad Mendez, Joey B, or Uriah Faber?
Wow, talk about the coin flip. I mean, Joseph Benavidez, I think, you know what? I like Joe B. I like Danny Castillo. Chad Mendez, he's a little shady in my eyes after that whole bar fight incident. You know, what's that all about? I wouldn't doubt Team Napoleon Complex rearing its ugly head and him cold cocking some motherfucker at a bar. Uriah, I don't know. He just always rubs me the wrong way. I'm gonna go with I'll go with Danny Castillo, just because he's aight.
And for the sake of I have no fucking idea, nor do I care what any of those little midgets think, even though I'm short, just that name, Team Alpha Male, for a bunch of midgets is hilarious. So I'm going to go Chad Mendez. He's a boring dude. Out of all three, probably the most boring. So I'd have to say it's going to be the most boring guy saying that.
I've got no clue either. My first reaction was Danny Castillo, so I'm just going to go Danny Castillo. I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you.
I'm going to have to go with Uriah Faber because these guys ain't got women making them sandwiches. Well, not girlfriends or anything. It's probably their moms. Mrs. Faber seems like the type that would make her son a sandwich. I'm going Uriah Faber.
I think I'm going to go with Chad Mendez only because nothing is better after cold cocking the shit out of some poor innocent motherfucker at a bar than a sandwich made by somebody else.
Alright, well, since no one guessed, someone definitely wasn't Joey B. Wasn't Pretty Boy Uriah Faber. Wasn't Danny Castillo.
Oh yeah, it tastes so good.
Chris
I
got
literally only went with Chad Mendez so I could make that fucking joke.
That was 4 or 3 questions.
That's
About
4 so
so
far.
That was 4, yeah.
Jake's on 3, aren't you, Jake?
Yeah, we have
All
one
right.
more, correct?
Yep.
And everyone else
Correct.
is on 1, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Wait, so I automatically win?
Oh, shut up. Let's just do
Suck it,
anyway.
bitches! Oh, yeah.
Cast taken over.
Shit was fixed.
Oh, yeah, you're on our team, man.
Black helicopters.
Even your own team saying it's fixed.
GMO
Oh,
seeds.
Okay, I
Guys,
won
can we
too.
do Bohemian Grove after this?
We doing the next question, or are we just going to
Yeah,
say
fuck it.
let's
Why
do it,
not?
let's do it.
Or what are we doing?
Why not?
I had to edit this one because it would be a dead giveaway, but to all the Halo 4 players out there, just got the Wi-Fi finally working, come get some. Was that Marcus Brimage, Cowboy Cerrone, Rampage Jackson, or Nick Lenz?
Rampage.
Okay, can you read those options again? I know there's Cerrone, Brimage, as well as Jackson. Who is the other guy?
Nick Lenz.
Lentz. Okay, Lentz would be too easy. Rampage is too easy. So Cerrone or Brimage? I'm going Cerrone, dog.
I'm going to go Nick Lentz.
Squeezer, Brimage.
Yeah, I don't think Rampage Jackson is intelligent enough to know how to play video games. So out of the other three, I don't need, and that wasn't a racist comment.
Sure it wasn't. Oily feet, he's not smart enough to, yeah, okay.
He's sliding around like Phil Davis, as Chris would say.
Pool, that's a fact.
Shit, why not? Nick Lentz, I don't fucking know.
All right, well, all four of them, I've seen them talk about playing games before, so... But it wasn't Rampage, wasn't Marcus the Darkness Brimage, wasn't the Carney Lentz, It was Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, coming back. How many
Chris.
points do you have, Ray? How many points do you have?
Filthy.
Well, the original tweet was, I finally got the Wi-Fi fixed in the RV. I figured that'd be a dead giveaway, so I had to take that little part out.
Yeah. Well
done,
good,
Jakey. Well done.
Good game, everybody.
It's
a shame no one can be as good as me, but maybe next time, kids.
Just better
maybe
looking.
Next time. Just you can't be worse looking than me, but you can't be better than me at this fucking game. You cocksuckers. Good game, everyone. I believe that puts Team MMA Podcast up 4-3 on Team MMA Mental. I'm shouldering the load. 3 wins all on my own. Jesus Christ, Chris Ramsey, y'all got to start getting some wins, son.
I know. I'm trying, man.
It's the heifer. You smoke it too much, heifer.
You a smoker too much of that. I guess not everyone can pull a Dave Beeland and get a victory on his first appearance. But let's move on. Knock out a couple news topics before we get to our boneheads. What I think was the biggest, if not just the most publicized news of this past week, Anderson Silva, he had been calling out GSP for a while. We all heard that he was going to be in attendance at UFC 154, and everyone figured that would be so if George St-Pierre won, he could walk in the cage, challenge him, etc., etc. Dana White's still pretty adamant on the fact that Anderson and GSP will fight in May at Cowboy Stadium if George St-Pierre wins. But all of a sudden, Anderson, or at least Anderson's camp, is coming out saying he wants to stay on the shelf until late 2013. I can't picture this happening, especially after he took a fight on short notice at UFC 153 against Stephan Bonner. Just really, really bizarre. I don't know why he's being so fickle about everything, whether it's the John Jones fight, first saying, no, I will fight him for nothing, and then him saying, I want half of the company if I fight him, and then him being like, no, I will fight him at catchweight. And now he's doing the same thing with George St-Pierre, saying, I want to fight George. And now saying, I don't want to fight George. I want to stay on shelf. I don't know why he's being so fickle about everything. He can't make up his mind about shit. My theory is just that his camp's kind of whispering in his ear. I can't understand why the baddest man on the planet is not being decisive about anything now. What are your guys' takes on all this fickleness coming from the Anderson Silva camp?
I think he's just coming towards the end of his career now. I mean, I suppose he thinks there's not many more fights out there for him. I don't know if he wants to take on the top people in different weights because, does he want to risk losing the fight and then maybe losing a little bit of his, of his legacy of which he's built in the UFC? I think, a fight versus John Jones and a fight versus GSP. He's capable of obviously winning both of them, but there's also a possibility he could lose both of them, especially with them being the kind of guys that would take him down. But I don't read too much into what he's saying. I mean, when it's time for him to fight, he'll be ready to fight and he'll look as good as ever. I don't really read too much into it personally.
Yeah, I brought up this point on our podcast last night. At this point in Anderson's career, I think that if you go back and you look at his career in Zuffa, he hasn't taken any kind of real significant damage. I mean, he did get hit quite a bit with rabbit punches by Chael for, 4.5 rounds. But other than that, no one's really tagged him that hard. So as far as, his brain holding up, I think he's perfectly fine. I could see him going till he's 45, 46, 47 like Randy Couture did. The only question is, can his style hold up? Because he's all about speed and accuracy. And obviously those things fall off first. So we'll see what happens with that. He's a commodity at this point in his career. He's a business. The Anderson Silva business is massive with multiple sponsors out there. Yeah, he's probably got his own shoe line. I mean, he's talking about making a movie with Seagal. So he really is a business, and that's why he can kind of dictate, because if he chooses not to fight the opponents that the UFC gives him, they're probably going to appease him. They're not going to cut Anderson Silva. He's a huge, huge, huge pay-per-view draw. So at this point in his career, I think the fans like us are the ones that are going to suffer to have to, precious time that he has left. We have to wait for him to come back. And as a person, I understand his decision, but it really sucks for us, considering that he could be wasting valuable time.
I'm personally, I guess you would say, disgusted by this. It just pisses me off so bad, because here's what happened. After Anderson Silva fought Chael Sonnen this summer, he came out after the fight and said, you know what? I'm not fighting until 2013. This was after Weidman's big fight, and Weidman looking like a fucking killer out there. And here comes Anderson Silva saying, I'm not going to fight till 2013. He was already saying it. They were already talking about it. And then, when the chance for him to save a card, taking on the perennial top contender that Stephan Bonner is, he jumps up and says, oh yeah, I'll take that fight at 205. Like, dude, are you kidding me? You're a fucking joke. Now you want to sit out until the end of 2013? You want to just sit out a year for no reason? Come on, dude. Like, fight Chris Weidman, fight Vitor Belfort, fight Bisping, fight someone in your weight class, fight someone relevant. Like, in a time when all of our fucking champions are getting injured, and we have like 8 weight classes now and maybe 10 title fights a year, 10 legit title fights, you're the one champion who's healthy, who's probably the best ever, and you're going to fucking sit out for no reason? Fuck that.
All right, look, here's the real deal. Anderson Silva is going to fight as soon as the money is on the table. This whole claiming he's going to be on the shelf until the end of 2013, that is bullshit. It's just standard negotiation right there. That's basic negotiation 101 right there. He knows Uncle Dana wants him to fight GSP at some point in 2013. So what's he going to do? He's going to say, I don't want to fight in 2013. Why? Because he wants the money. The first offer on the table probably wasn't good enough. So, I mean, of course, if I were Silva, that's what I would do. Because at this point, it's not about defending the championship title anymore for him. It's about just making as much money as possible now, while he still can, before he gets out of there. Everybody knows the GSP's fight is going to happen, as long as GSP's knee doesn't explode on Saturday. And so basically that's all it is. It's just a negotiation tactic on Anderson's part. He's a smart guy, at least when it comes to this, because he's pretty damn good at ducking fights until one that he wants comes along. Of course, he couldn't duck Chael Sonnen, but he definitely held out until the money was as high as it was going to get. That stack was pretty fucking huge by the time it came around to him signing the paper.
Yeah, I see either two conspiracies going down. One, like the one Ramsey just broke down, he's sitting now waiting for Uncle Dana and the Zuffa brothers to come, and not Zuffa brothers, the Fertitta brothers come with him with a nice hefty payday. Please, 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 Mr. Anderson, fight GSP for us at the state. Or Uncle Dana came to him and told him to make the stuff up to get more interest brought into UFC 154, since, that really didn't sell out right away, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest with this being GSP's first fight back. So once it was announced that he was coming to challenge him, and then all of a sudden turn around, oh no, he's going to sit out. I think it's just to get more people interested in watching to see what Anderson Silva is going to do if GSP beats Condit. Those are my two conspiracies about it.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really kind of odd. Yeah, we don't know if he means it. We don't know if it's just a tactic to sort of get more money for his next fight. But Dana seems like he's pretty confident that Anderson Silva is going to fight GSP if GSP wins in May. And it usually seems like Dana tends to be right about stuff like that. And sticking to the welterweights before we get to our boneheads, Chris Weidman, like Patrick mentioned, kind of getting the shaft, but it's really, it's really funny. A couple roundtables ago, I suggested that while Anderson's doing his thing and light heavyweight and catchweight under middleweight to fight GSP, that there be a 4-man tourney for the interim championship between Weidman and Boach and Bisping and Belfort. And wouldn't you fucking know it, Chris Weidman suggests, I think he stole the idea from me, and I think I'm going to sue him for rights to the idea. But, yeah, he threw out the idea of the winner of Weidman-Boach taking on the winner of Bisping versus Belfort, which we might really see happen. And I was wondering if this happened, who wins the 4-man tourney? We actually talked about it on the MMA podcast, but just so we can get MMA Mental's opinions on it. Personally, out of Weidman and Boach, I love Boach, and if he was just a little bit faster, I have him beating Weidman. But Weidman's looked so great. You know, he beat the living donkey fuck out of Mark Munoz. And, you know, great footwork, great all-around fighter. I see Weidman winning that fight. Bisping versus Belfort. As long as Bisping can get out of that first round, you know, Belfort, even before the John Jones fight, was known as a guy that is most threatening in the first round. And wouldn't you know it, he almost finished Jones in the first round, and then Jones dominated him after that, and ending up getting the 4th round submission by Americana. You know, Bisping has looked so crisp. Bullied Mayhem around the cage, fended off some Chael Sonnen takedowns, which I thought was the most impressive thing of his most recent streak. Just has looked excellent. I actually see him beating Vitor Belfort, the MMA legend who's only lost to other MMA legends. And between Chris Weidman and Michael Bisping, God, that's so tough. But Michael Bisping, you know, as much as I hate to give credit to people from the UK, like our friend Ray, I see Michael Bisping winning this 4-man tournament if it goes down. Chris?
Man, this is so fantastic because for a division that was so thin not too long ago, it's just really exciting to see this kind of matchmaking where it is, in a way, kind of a tournament. Regardless if they actually announce it, these guys will be fighting, and most likely title contention from the winners of these two fights will actually be in place. So good job in calling that, Jake. You know, I gave you props last night as well. That's a fantastic idea. As far as these fights play out, let's look at the weakest links here. To me, that's Boach and Belfort. Boach is a guy who has kind of gotten through this career resurgence with grit. I mean, he's not really threatening with submissions at all. His stand-up game is decent. He obviously finished Okami, but he's very plodding and slow. I'd say he's the tournament's weakest link. And then you have Belfort, who at this point in his career, you know, just beyond that first round, he doesn't have much to offer, which has been proven time and time again. He's a fantastic swarming style with lightning speed and accuracy, but he's an older man at this point, and against the other guys, I think he's probably going to be the second worst. So that leaves Weidman and Bisping. I think those guys will definitely face off, and I don't really have to go into detail as to why those guys are, you know, awesome in what they do, but I will say this, Chris Weidman, if he faces Michael Bisping, he's in for a world of hurt. I mean, the guy really hasn't fought top competition. I'm sorry, but beating up a out-of-shape Mark Munoz and going to a decision with Maya, choking out, what was his name, Bongfelt or something like that, and Lawler, doesn't really speak volumes to me as far as his skills. Yeah, he's shown flashes of brilliance, but hasn't really had that kind of staunch test yet. And I can't say enough how Michael Bisping has looked A-level in the last year or so, maybe a little bit more. So I've got Michael Bisping winning this goddamn thing.
Bold predictions coming from Chris. For myself, the way I see this tournament going down, I think, and I suppose I may be riding those nuts a little hard on this one, but I think Chris Weidman has the best skill set to get a victory over any of the other guys in this proposed tournament. I think just the way it breaks down, I think Weidman could probably take down just about anybody and just wrap him up. I mean, when you look at how Damian Maia has looked at 170 since dropping back down, and I mean, of course, when you consider Damian Maia's initial run in the UFC and how he was just tearing shit up, I think people sell Weidman's performance against him a little short. Weidman completely controlled and dominated Maia. I mean, his grappling is just, it's fucking ridiculous. His fight with Tom Lawler, he took him down, choked him out, and had him fucking unconscious on the ground in probably like 40 seconds. This guy's ridiculous. And then, you know, showing that nice little trick with that, it almost looked like a overhand elbow, if you could call it that, against Mark Munoz that just fucked his world up. I mean, that was insane. So if his striking is coming along, he's going to be tough, man. And, you know, talk about a guy who hasn't been tested, at least in the way of chin. I mean, this guy, he's 9-0, and he's virtually unscathed. I don't even really recall seeing him get punched in any of his fights so far. I'm going with Weidman.
Okay. I had to laugh when I saw Weidman propose his 4-man bracket, which is basically a path for Weidman to get the title in 2 fights conveniently. It's kind of ridiculous that a part of this bracket was the fight against Bosch that Weidman's going to have anyway. That's his next fight, according to everything. And then him versus Bosch, I think that's going to be an easy one for him now because Chris Weidman is hungry now. All right. He knows he's got to get the title as soon as possible and start getting paid that big money. All right, he's got a new house to buy. He's got to find a new house right now. All right, they got blew away in Hurricane Sandy. He's now the best homeless fighter since Kimbo Slice. he is the second UFC homeless fighter in the UFC to be homeless. Chris Weidman. He is going to be a future champ. I think everybody sees it in his eyes. It's written all over his face. The fact that he just lost his house, it's going to have him. He knows he's got to become champion and start making the money right away while he's still got the shot and while he's on fire. He's going to run through anybody they put in front of him until it's the title fight, where I suspect he will get jitters and whoever it is that he's fighting for the championship. You're going to see him probably start to fall apart mentally there. But for right now, he's got it together, focused. Weidman wins. He goes through Bosch. He goes through Bisping. He goes through the Lion. Fuck you, Vitor. That's all I got to say. I'm out.
Wow, how do I come back after that? I just don't know.
You don't.
The whole point is, you got to wait to see what Anderson does before you start making assumptions like this. It makes sense in one way, but I just don't understand him bringing it up. If Anderson does sit out, I mean, it's pretty much a given that what he's proposing is going to happen anyway. So what's really the big deal about even really bringing it up? I don't know. But I would definitely see Weidman winning the interim belt for it to go not only that, but, you know, Bisping does have to get over that big hurdle of Belfort, which will be a big test for him. Especially if, say, staying or goes to ground, because we all know Belfort can take it from either way from him. But, you know, Weidman still fairly young in the game. Bosch has a heavy hand, so it could be a good test if Weidman doesn't get to the ground right away. See if he can sit there and hang with someone with power like Bosch. So, who knows? Only time will tell with this whole thing and how it plans out.
I've stated before, and I'll state it again, but I've said before that I've got a record of saying that I think Chris Weidman's going to be the next middleweight champion. I mean, I know what Chris was saying about he's not beating top guys or he's not beating good guys, but I mean, I thought Mark Munoz was a good guy to beat, and it's not the fact that he's beating them, it's the fact it's how he's beating them. That's what's impressing me, and Patrick obviously touched on that with his win over Tom Lawler. But the way I see this playing out, I think Weidman versus Boach, I think Weidman will be too athletic for Boach. He'll either end up catching him with a strike or he'll take him down and get a submission. Bisping Balfour, I think Bisping will outwork Balfour. Balfour is very durable, but Bisping is one of these guys that pressure, and we've seen in the past that Balfour's will can break, and I think that's what happened. I could see Bisping working his way to a decision. Then we've got Weidman Bisping in the final if we do get this tournament. And I just think that it's Weidman's time. I think Bisping is brilliant, and I think he's been great for British MMA. I remember seeing him fight before he was in the UFC, and watching what he's gone on to do is fantastic. But I just think it's Weidman's time. And then, regardless of whether we have an interim title or we see Weidman fight Anderson Silva, I actually think Weidman will be the man to topple Anderson Silva as well.
For sure. Wow. Really hot take there. Before we go on to Bonehead of the Week, Ray bringing up the fact he thinks Weidman's going to usurp Anderson Silva and be the next champion. Really, really quickly, literally in one word, do you think if Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva fight in 2013 that Chris Weidman beats Anderson Silva? I say no. Chris?
I say no.
Patrick?
Yeah, no.
Ramses?
Nope.
Dave?
Hell no.
Looks like you're alone with this one, Ray.
I'll have bet all of you, yes.
Well,
I remember this podcast.
Yeah, and then after Anderson Silva wipes him out, you will be my Bonehead of the Week. Speaking of which, let us get straight to our Boneheads of the Week. My bonehead of the week is Keith Kaiser. It absolutely infuriates me seeing him literally just go on like Chael Sonnen and talk crap about other fighters. Yeah, you know what? Nick Diaz did test positive for a marijuana metabolite, and he's serving his suspension. That's it, and that's where it should end. Keith Kaiser coming out acting like a jackass, saying, oh yeah, well, you know what? We all know why Nick Diaz was drinking those bottles of water. There's no question. It's because he was going to test positive, blah, 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 just trying to puff himself up. Keith, no one wants to hear that. You know, if there was a judge, say after the OJ trial, the judge came out and was talking shit about OJ, saying, we all know why he was faking to put that glove on his hand, and we all know this and that, he would get disbarred, because that's not how a judge should act. And because these crooked-ass state athletic commissions can just get away with doing whatever they want, because apparently they have no government regulation, even if you have a dipshit like Keith Kaiser at the helm, he's not going to get kicked off. It infuriates the hell out of me that Keith Kaiser can be in such a position where he can pump himself up and act like such a jackass. I can't wait for the day where Keith Kaiser is replaced and ends up being a homeless man on the street like Chris Weidman. Yeah, Keith Kaiser, screw you, you arrogant fucking prick. You're my bonehead of the week.
Fucking prick. I agree. Total prick. My bonehead of the week is the goddamn injury bug. Stop it. Stop biting people and stop making them injured. It's getting goddamn annoying. I mean, we have, Aldo, we have, Pettis, we've got Carwin, we've got Yegan, we've got all these guys that are just, I don't know what it is, man. It seems in the last year there's been more injuries prominently than any time I can remember. Maybe it's the fact that the UFC has a bloated roster, but goddamn it, it's getting really fucking old, really annoying as a fan, as a fanatic, as an MMA mentalist. It's really hard to see these fights fall through that you really, really look forward to. And it brings up a question. Are they training too hard? Are they not training smart enough? Is it just an act of God? So, injury bug, fucking stop it.
I gotta say, my bonehead of the week, and I hate to kick a man while he's down, but if that man costs me money, I have no problem stomping his ass. So, I'm gonna have to kick Rich Franklin while he's down for embarrassing the UFC, just our country, the US. Well, I guess not you, Ray. The USA embarrassing us in general. That knockout, Kung Lee knocking him out. That was the most embarrassing knockout I've seen since Forrest Griffin fought Anderson Silva on Xanax. All right, Rich Franklin, he looked like a bum. He looked like an extra from one of Kung Lee's movies, all right? He just
Whoa!
like he was one of those dudes that just he's like one of the goons, like there's 6 of them. They just start running up to Jackie Chan and Jet Li's just knocking them out one by one. One of those guys was Rich Franklin, all right? He just ran up to Kung Lee and he got knocked out like a fool, like he was an extra in that Joey Karate video where all those kung fu motherfuckers attacked him. All right, one of those guys was Rich Franklin. What a damn bum! It was like Vietnam all over again. We went over there into Asia and we got our ass whooped by the Vietnamese. All right, it was a goddamn embarrassment. Rich Franklin, you notice him and his wife haven't been putting out those inspirational tweets anymore. What do you got to say now, Rich Franklin? You're done. Go back to teaching math.
Damn, son.
My bonehead of the week is something that really, really winds me up, and it's when you get a referee who doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm going to go for the referee at the Bellator event this weekend, which is James Waring. We've got the heavyweight fight, the semi-final between Volkov and Queiroz. It's fair to say that Queiroz was tiring. But what was the referee doing? Queiroz is tiring, so what he needs to do, he's getting lit up on the feet, he needs to take Volkov down. Perfect sense. So he takes Volkov down. Within 10 or 15 seconds, and he's looking to improve himself, but he's only just got down there, the ref stands him back up again. And then, of course, from the stand-up, Queiroz was absolutely knackered. I think he was a bit shocked to be stood up as well, to be honest with you. And Volkov has just come in and done what he does and has got the TKO stoppage. Now, I think Volkov was going to win that fight anyway. I really do, because he looked really good, and the longer the fight was going on, the more he was going. But just what an absolute bullshit stand-up. It was just ridiculous. And I can't remember, there was another decision he made in the fight as well, and I can't remember it, but it was just before that. But the stand-up alone was enough for me, because that changed the whole fight.
Well, for me, my bonehead of the week this week is Royce Gracie. The man is a legend in the sport. His family is basically taking all the credit with a fairly good cause for creating mixed martial arts. Shane Carwin gets injured this week. Apparently blows out his knee, rips every fucking ligament, the ACL, the PCL, the MCL. He just blows the shit out, right? The streak of the tough coaches continues. Another tough coach injured just a month before the finale. And Royce Gracie comes out and he says, Shane Carwin's injuring himself because he's a former PED user. Well, guess what? Royce, so are you? Kazushi's not rob a son. You fucking pop dirt. I mean, I have no problem saying Carwin is injuring himself because he's just fucking haggard from roids. I think that's probably the case. I mean, that and the fucking life-altering curb stomping he took from Junior Dos Santos, those two things, I mean, that'll just fuck your life up. But come on, Royce. Pop, calling the kettle black. Shut your fucking mouth. You're the bonehead of the week.
Jake?
Isn't Dave up?
Dave?
Oh, sorry. My bonehead of the week is just a triple header here. I'm going to call out Zuffa, Showtime, Strikeforce for them dropping the ball on how to handle Strikeforce. I just think it was mishandled from the get-go since Zuffa took over.
And it looks like my internet is getting a little scratchy here. Let me try and reconnect. 1 second. A little bit of technical difficulties. Let me go back. Yeah, and to recap so far, I got Keith Kaiser, Chris has the injury bug, Ramses with Rich Franklin, and Ray taking referee James Waring, Patrick calling out Royce Gracie. Okay, looks like you all are back. Sorry, I dropped out of the call. Would you start back at the top, Dave?
All right, my pick would be between Showtime, Zuffa, and Strikeforce here for dropping the ball and mishandling Strikeforce, because now it's closing, at the January event. They could easily, just took all the top talent, like the Gilbert Melendez's, the current champions. They already took all the heavyweights out of there, moved them out to the UFC, kept the women's divisions, and, the tough enough guy.
Dave, you there? looks like I'm having internet troubles once again.
There we go.
Are you with us, Dave?
I'm here.
All right. Yes. All right, dude. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this shit. It really pisses me off that I'm paying $70 a month for basic cable and basic internet, and this shit drops out on me on the regular. You were about 30 seconds in, Dave. Just maybe back up 5 seconds from where you were.
All right. Well, I think that the biggest thing they could have done was leave Strikeforce the way it is. You keep it with the up-and-comers, guys having a tough time, the women's divisions. You focus on all that. That way, you don't have to let guys go that, drop a couple fights. They can stay in the Zuffa family. You don't have to worry about them going to other competition, making it big name for themselves, and then they won't be able to get those guys back. You just basically that way Showtime still gets shows, and you can put on very good shows still. I just think it was a dumb idea or a dumb thing that they did from the get-go, trying to keep Strikeforce separate. They were so against having the crossover fights, which could have saved multiple shows on both occasions between the UFC and Strikeforce. I think they're just stupid for the way they mishandled Strikeforce.
Yeah, so looking at all of our boneheads, I gotta go with Royce Gracie here. Patrick makes a really good point. Pot con the kettle black. You can't fucking be taking steroids and call another dude out for taking steroids. And I don't buy this shit anymore. Saying oh yeah, you know what? My Twitter was hacked, whatever. I've had 3 Twitter accounts for like 2 years. No one has hacked my shit. Royce Gracie, either get a better password or stop making dumb comments and then saying you're hacked afterwards. My bonehead is Royce Gracie.
All right. I'm looking back on all of them. You got Rich and Kaiser. These are individuals who I'm not too pissed off at personally. And then you got the whole Zuffa Strikeforce Showtime thing. That's just business. Doesn't piss me off that much. Royce being a dumb idiot.
Oh my God! You've got to be kidding me.
If you can't do your job properly, then you shouldn't have a job. And when you're taking other people's lives in your hands, as they do in mixed martial arts, if you can't protect a fighter, what are you doing inside the octagon? Get out of there. Get this idiot out of there. Or at least put him on some kind of suspension where he has to take specialized classes. So I'm definitely with Ray on that one. He's my bonehead.
Ramses, who is your overall bonehead of everyone's bonehead? You can't choose your own.
I haven't even heard about this Royce Gracie thing, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, he seems like a damn fool, Royce Gracie. If you notice on that, he did some roundtable interview on Fuel or something. He was telling.
All right, this is getting really ridiculous. I'm going to change over my internet. It keeps cutting in and out. I'm going to try and tap into my neighbors. It's a shittier connection. Sorry to all our listeners. We'll edit these bits out. Give me 10 seconds and we will be back. Hold on for one moment. All right, you should be good to go, Ramses. Continue on, son.
Yeah, it was great. Out of all the other boneheads, he was. Yeah, Royce Gracie definitely. Hopefully, he's a bonehead if I had to pick someone else's. He's a damn fool. He seems like an old fool. He's telling tall tales about UFC 1, about how he never got nervous and never got injured or tired. He's full of shit. So yeah, I don't believe him about this Twitter thing either. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Oh my fuck! Oh my God, never get Comcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is so fucking infuriating. Are you there, Ramses? What the fuck? Alright. Yeah, god damn it. I really, it's cutting in and out whether I'm on mine or my neighbor's internet. And Chris, even if we do keep it going, everything's being broadcast through my computer, so when I cut off, the podcast cuts off.
Okay, so we're not recording when it cuts off, correct? Or is that just for the live listeners? Because fuck them if it's on Ustream. Just keep on going, keep on trucking. If it's your internet that's cutting out, then obviously we got to figure that out. But if it's just Skype, then I think we should keep on going.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're good now. So Ramses, carry on.
No, it was on me. It's recording at my end as well. So that's the thing that gets me the most is the injury. I hate seeing a fight announced. I get excited for the fight. I can't wait to see Fighter A versus Fighter B, and then Fighter A pulls out of an injury. So for me, the bonehead of the week is the injury bug.
Yeah, there's a ton of great selections from this. I mean, Kaiser, he's just a perennial bonehead of the week, bonehead of the year, whatever you want, bonehead of the millennium. That guy's a douchebag. He does his job just about as poorly as the referee in the Alexander Volkov fight. I mean, God, I really don't know which way to go with this one, but man, I'll go with the referee in the Volkov fight.
I'm going to have to go with the injury bug. I think we call this one Bonehead of the Year, maybe, or it could be in the running for it. It happens way too often these days. Pisses you off to no end. I think Ray pretty much hit it on the head. You're so excited to see a fight, and then boom, injury happens, and you stuck with a replacement that you don't care about. So my pick's definitely the injury bug.
Wow, it looks like for the first time in our 8-episode history, we have a 3-way tie between Hoist Gracie, the injury bug, and referee James Waring. You 3 idiots are our boneheads of the week, including the injury bug. I hate that fucking idiot. Before we break down UFC 154, Ray, you wanna bring us our weekly edition of your Fight Busters?
Yeah, I've got 3 new clues, and I'll also give out the answers for last week's and explain to you how we came to the answers, so you can get into my mind, which will help you with the clues. I'll also, as I'm reading out last week's, I'll see if you know the answer. So the first one, these are last week's and the answer. So clue number 1 for Fight Busters was correct, incorrect, and then kill. So did anybody work that answer out?
Correct, incorrect, and then kill.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Nope.
Okay, so to break it down, correct and incorrect, what you're doing, you're marking something. So that was mark. And then kill from the hunt. So that was Mark Hunt. Okay, so clue number 2 was I've got lots of money, I'm tough, bring on the stones. Now I know that Patrick got this one, so Patrick, do you want to shout this answer out and let us know how we got to the answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I finally figured out one of the keys in your Fight Busters madness. You got to break it down clue by clue and try and get a word for each clue. So, for example, I've got lots of money. That's rich. And let's see. I'm tough. A synonym for tough would be hard. Rich hard becomes Richard, and then bring on the stones would be Hale. So you have Richard Hale for the second Fight Buster.
Fight Buster 3 last week. Now I thought this one was actually quite easy, and clue number 3 was steal some jewellery. Did anybody work that one out?
Nope.
Okay, so if you steal something, you nick. Go on. If you steal something, you nick it. And an example of a piece of jewellery is a ring. So the answer was nick ring.
Nick ring, you dirty bastard.
Isn't that's some slang? Nicking it, that doesn't hold up in the U.S., man. You got to keep the slang out of it, bro. I would never know that.
Well, it's not my fault that you're thick. Right, we now move on to the next 3 clues.
Oh, right. I'm very girthy, Ray. I'm super thick.
I'll give you a little bit of a way into my mind. So I want to see if you can work these clues out, okay? So clue number 1 for Fight Busters for this week is I'll have some coffee with the doctor, then go to the toilet. So that's clue number 1. Alright? Clue number 2 for this week, the colour of the month, nearly a geek. And clue number 3 this week, the American uncle having a beer. Now, if you think you know these answers, If you think you know these answers, you can tweet at MMA Mentor, or you can email mmamental@hotmail.com. And what's your Twitter handle, Jake?
It's the MMA podcast, and I don't know if you want us solving any of these live on the air, but I think I might have one of them figured out.
Sam, which one which number?
I think I have the third one figured out.
Okay, yeah, if you know it, then shout it out, and we've still got the other two for people to guess.
It's having a beer with the American Uncle, right?
Yeah.
The American Uncle would be Uncle Sam, and a stout beer is one of my favorite kinds of beer. Is that Sam Stout?
It is. Well done.
Yeah.
I hate you guys.
So now you've got to work out number 1 and 2. So I'll read out number 1 and 2 again then. So if anyone knows 1 and 2, you can email in. Don't even worry about number 3 because old Jakey's worked it out. So number 1, I'll have some coffee with the doctor and then go to the toilet. And number 2, the colour of the month, nearly a geek. And that is this week's fight.
Okay, I've got the second one. Second one.
Go on, give it. What's the second one?
It's Gray Maynard.
Yes, can you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Color of the month would be gray. Nearly a geek would be nerd. So,
okay, how did I get May?
Month.
Okay, well done. Did you split that one out? There's somebody there telling you.
No, I just figured that out while looking at it. See, I'm a visual person, so I typed them out, and that made me think a lot better. So I think that's going to be the move from here on out.
Right. So we just need clue number 1 then. I'll have some coffee with the doctor and then go to the toilet. Has anybody got any ideas of what clue number 1 is?
Coco Nurse Poop. Is it Coco Nurse Poop?
And which version does she fight for?
Hey, Ramses.
I think she's in Invicta.
I got nothing on this one, man.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. It really is rough. Good
welcome to my warped mind.
The mind of Ray.
Anyone
so if you
clue number 1, tweet us or email us.
Yeah, if you think you have that solved, let us know. We'll shout it out on both of our next podcasts. So those are that I guess is Ray's Fight Buster, because Chris and I figured out the last 2, and we'll repeat that one more time before we close it out tonight. So our Bonehead, our Fight Busters. Let's get into what I've been waiting for, UFC 154. About time we have a good pay-per-view. Not that UFC 153 wasn't good, but the main and co-main event were so slanted. Glover Teixeira and Anderson Silva were easy favorites, and they dominated their opponents. So yeah, we'll talk about the co-main and main of UFC 154. We broke down the whole main card on the MMA podcast. If you want to check out our 21st episode, let's get straight to it. The co-main event, a likely title eliminator for the welterweight division, as long as the winner of the main event stays in the welterweight division. You have both GSP and Condit now at this point talking about a possible fight with Anderson Silva. We don't know what's going to happen there. But Martin Kampmann versus Johnny Hendricks, it's going to be an all-out war. Johnny Hendricks obviously packs a little bit more of a punch. And like I mentioned on the MMA podcast, Kampmann's never fought a wrestler as high a level as Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks has never fought someone who has, such a multifaceted striking game as Martin Kampmann does. Kampmann isn't a slouch on the ground either, but the reason I see Hendricks winning this fight is because Kampmann's whole style relies on people giving him space, him hopping around, kind of giving those jabs, popping back, kind of like Carlos did against Nick Diaz, making himself room, never letting the other guy back him against the cage. Very, very excellent footwork. But Johnny Hendricks doesn't play that game, son. Johnny Hendricks is always moving forward, and he has a killer left hand, and that's why I see Johnny Hendricks winning this one by knockout in the first round.
Wow, bold prediction there, sir. Very bold. Hendricks is vaunted for that power, and Joe Rogan actually said in the Countdown show for this that Johnny Hendricks can knock out any man on the planet with that hand. And you know what? that's true. He's kind of like Jake Ellenberger, Dan Henderson. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist with excellent wrestling and one solid weapon. I mean, Ellenberger has that huge knockout power. Dan Henderson has the H-bomb. Johnny Hendricks has that left hook. Also, he's pretty good with other aspects, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. Whereas Martin Kampmann, in my eyes, has really taken the step up. I really discounted him until his fight with Rick Story. Before that, I was like, okay, well, he can hang with some of the best in the division, beat Condit, but he's also lost to some guys. Paul Daly kind of beat the shit out of him, and even though he wasn't knocked out cold, he did get dominated in that fight. So, lost to Sanchez, lost to Shields in 2 fights that I thought he should have won. But ultimately, I kind of thought that he was just too generic to ever be a title contender, just good enough, but not great. And after his recent 3-fight career resurgence with 2 finishes, he's looked absolutely fantastic, and I can't really discount him anymore. So as far as the fight plays out, I've got Martin Kampmann winning this one by a decision.
I'm also on the Kampmann bandwagon. Then again, I have been since his middleweight days. I've always picked Kampmann. I love his style. He's got a good, crisp Muay Thai style. He more uses his punches. He's got good straights. But we saw those knees come out against Ellenberger, and man, did they work to perfection. He put Ellenberger's bitch ass out cold. And Chris, like you had mentioned, Hendricks, he's Ellenberger-like. He's got that super solid power. They're both high quality wrestlers, and I think Kampmann just has what it takes to beat Johnny Hendricks in this fight. I know MMA math is flawed at times, but you look at Rick Story beating Johnny Hendricks, and then just the kind of big brothering that Kampmann put on Johnny Hendricks. And I'm really hoping, and I really believe that we'll see more of the same. I think Kampmann is going to put the stamp on Happy Beard Guy. As much as I love Johnny Hendricks, I love Kampmann that much more, and I'm picking him to put a savage beating that will go the distance because Johnny Hendricks is so durable. I'm going with the Kampmann unanimous decision.
Well, Patrick, you're crazy. This fight is not going to go the distance. I've said it before, but I just want to go on record one more time here. UFC 154 is going to be the battle of the facial hair. The guy with the most facial hair is going to win. In this case, Johnny Hendricks. He's got that bush of protection around his damn chin. If you look in his eyes, there's nothing there. They're just blank until he gets in the damn octagon, and then you see a stone cold killer. Johnny Hendricks is going to knock this. It's going to be a knockout, all right? Somebody's getting knocked out. It's going to be Martin Kampmann. He ain't got the boxing. He ain't got the striking. He ain't got the power to own Johnny Hendricks. And that's what you have to do to beat Johnny Hendricks. You got to own him. It ain't going to happen with this kid. Johnny Hendricks is going to win via the bus driver uppercut to steal a phrase from Bloodstained Lane.
Hadouken!
Hatsaisen!
Hell yeah.
It was funny because we talked about this fight yesterday on our podcast as well, because obviously it is such an exciting fight and it's a great fight on paper. And the way I broke this fight down yesterday was both these guys have beat top guys in the division. You've got, going on the last few big wins, you've got Hendricks over Fitch and Koscheck, which are 2 of his biggest standout victories. You've got Kampmann over Thiago Alves and Jake Ellenberger. Now, the way I looked at Martin Kampmann was, I really rate Martin Kampmann. I think he's brilliant at what he does. He's a great fighter. He's very technical. He's very durable. He's got stamina for days. But I look at both those fights. Thiago Alves looked like he was going to win that fight until he had a moment of madness, a brain fart, whatever you want to call it, and he's then gone in for a takedown against a guy who's got much better ground game. But whatever, he's took him down and he's got caught. He's been mounted. He's got guillotine. So that was him out of the fight. You look at Jake Ellenberger. Now, we know Jake Ellenberger has power, and probably a similar kind of power to Hendricks, but we also know that Ellenberger struggles with his stamina. So as soon as Ellenberger had run out of steam, Kampmann does what he does. He jumps in and he finishes him off because Kampmann's got cardio. Now, I look at this fight. Do I think Hendricks is going to make a stupid mistake like Alves did? No, I don't. Do I think Hendricks will run out of steam like Ellenberger did? And, again, no, I don't. I think Hendricks is going to come in. I think he's going to wait to land. He's going to use his wrestling as a counter wrestling to keep the fight standing, and he's obviously got the power to knock anybody out. And I see this fight going very similar to the way that the Paul Daly Campman fight went. I know it was a while ago, but I think once Hendricks connects with a punch, I think he'll put Campman away. And what makes this fight even more interesting, because me and Patrick were talking about this yesterday, and obviously Patrick has gone for Martin Campman. I went for Johnny Hendricks. I called him out yesterday on air for an av bet, and of course he had no option but to accept it. But yes, I am going for Johnny Hendricks round 1 knockout.
Definitely. Yeah, that's going to be a great fight. And also, the winner of that really is going to be on such a roll at that point. He does deserve a title shot, but with all this craziness, super fights, no one knows what's going to go on with the winner of George St-Pierre and Carlos Condit. Let's get straight to that fight. GSP coming off a layoff of a year and 7 months. He is the champion, taking on Carlos Condit, who earned his interim belt against Nick Diaz earlier in the year. Really simply, who do you think is going to win this fight? I have George St-Pierre. A lot of people are bringing up his injury, but in this day and age with medical procedures the way they are, you have guys like Tom Brady, guys like Adrian Peterson. Yeah, you weren't getting attacked necessarily, but, Tom Brady's case, you have to throw a 70-yard pass off of that back leg that's been surgically repaired. Even more in Adrian Peterson's case, you have giant 300-pound guys with hard helmets going straight at your legs, and Adrian Peterson has made it through. If this was 5 years ago, GSP would be done. I would say Carlos Condit all day. But it's 2012, and modern medicine, especially in orthopedic surgery, has really come a very, very long way. Condit can target that leg as much as he wants, but he hasn't fought a guy who can impose his will as much as GSP can do. Maybe the best guy at imposing his will Condit has fought was Dong Young Kim. Condit obviously was able to sweep out of all of those takedowns, stand it back up. He isn't going to be able to sweep out of a GSP takedown. Once GSP puts you down, you're going to get ground and pounded the rest of the round. I see GSP winning this by decision, 50-45, maybe 49-46, but I don't see Condit taking a round in this fight. GSP is going to impose his will, and the champ's going to be back. GSP by decision.
That's a great breakdown, Jake. It's kind of easy to buy into the hype. You got people like Josh Gross writing these trumped up articles, 5 reasons why he's picking Carlos Condit. You're not picking Carlos Condit, dude. Nobody is. Everybody's picking GSP because you have to. GSP, he's a fucking machine. Fuck Mark Hominick. GSP, he's the machine. No offense to Mark, love you. But goddamn, GSP, he will put his fist in your face early and often, and through the entire duration of a 5-round fight, he'll take you down and he'll just punk you for your butt. It will not be a fun time, and I have to take GSP until I see him lose, and even after he loses, I'm going to pick him to win the rematch. Carlos Condit's good. He's well-rounded. He's got lots of tools in the toolbox. But I think GSP is well-rounded as well, and what he's got is just a little bit better than Carlos Condit's, and he's going to come back with a vengeance. I'm taking GSP by UD.
Oh, my God. You GSP believers are making me I feel sorry for you guys. I feel sorry for you guys, all right? You guys are just you guys are living in a dream world right now. It's been a year and 7 months, 19 months since he's stepped in the ring, since he's gotten a real person throwing punches and kicks at him. The party is over for GSP, all right? The ACL on GSP is going to RIP, right? It's over. You're not going to see a fight on Saturday. You're going to witness a ceremony. It's going to be a changing of titles, all right? Carlos, he's going to unify the belt easily. I already have money bet on him. For some reason, he's the underdog. What the fuck? This kid's on fire. He's been training specifically for GSP this entire time, while GSP's just been rehabbing, just focusing on his knee. Word on the street is that he isn't even actually training hard or sparring hard. Like, this guy ain't even showing up to the gym that much as often as he should be. He's got a championship fight coming off a surgery like that, a devastating surgery and injury. I just don't see it. They're going to dance around. The only way GSP can win this fight is if the judges go home that night with fat pockets, lined pockets, fat envelopes tucked away. The only way GSP wins is if Carlos Condit makes the mistake of letting it go the distance. If it goes the distance, GSP has a chance. Otherwise, Carlos Condit is just going to just play around with him. He's going to toy around with him, spar with him, hit him whenever he wants. Those takedowns ain't going to be worth a damn anymore. All right? No more explosions from that knee. Trust me.
I'm rooting for Carlos Condit. I'd love to see Carlos Condit win, but I just don't see it. I mean, like everyone has said, obviously, apart from Ramses, I just think GSP is going to do what GSP does. I do think Condit will make it hard for him. He's explosive on the feet. If he can keep the fight standing, he's definitely got a chance. He's got good punches. We've seen him with a flying knee. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to stop GSP from taking him down. And even off his back, Condit, again, he'll work. He'll look for submissions. He'll look for sweeps. But we've seen with the top-level guys, especially the wrestlers, and we know GSP's got a great wrestling base, they've got excellent top game where they can stay out of the positions and they can cause damage. I do think the fight will go the distance. I do think Condit will make it an exciting fight, and I think there'll be dangerous times for GSP, maybe some close submission attempts, but GSP is going to work through everything. He's going to grind out. I'll probably go for a 50-45 UD.
Man, this is one of those fights that I get really heated up. Normally, me and Ramses kind of went at it last night on episode, what was it, 21, I believe, or 20?
Yep,
of the
21.
21 of the MMA podcast. We went really in depth with it. I'm just going to try and keep it as concise as possible and not drone on. Ramses, feel bad for us all you want. That's fine, but you're going to feel real bad when Carlos Condit loses on Saturday night, which he will. GSP is a living legend. Like Jake brought up, he's had some really high-level surgery on that knee, the best the world can offer. So to think that knee is done and he's shot, you're out of your goddamn mind, son. George St-Pierre has lost to 2 men in his career, avenged those losses, and on Saturday night, he's coming back with a vengeance. He's coming back to prove something. So I think he's not going to finish Carlos necessarily at all, but he will win that fight. I'm going to say split decision.
Ooh, split decision. You see it going to the judges' hands like me, but think it'll be a little bit closer. And I think all of us agree it's going to come down to that knee. If GSP is the GSP of old, I think we all see GSP winning. But it'll be interesting. Just a few days away to see, just 2 days away to see how George St-Pierre does. And I'm really looking forward to talking about what went down in the fight next week. So let's get to a little bit more news before we put a bow on this bitch. UFC 156. God, it is turning out to be such a beautiful-ass card. Let's talk about a couple matchups that have recently been made for UFC 156. We knew it was going to feature Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo, a fight that's still probably going to headline it just because there's a belt on the line. But 2 fights being made. We'll talk about the first one first. We'll talk about the big guys, Alistair Overeem versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva. What are your guys' early thoughts? I see this all day going to Alistair Overeem. Bigfoot, he really is a freak. I mean, facing up with Travis Brown, his head was twice as big as Travis Brown, just a monster of a man. But you're fighting another monster of a man. You weren't necessarily going to have that size advantage. And there is no better striker in the UFC than Alistair Overeem, a former K1 champion. I see this ending in quick fashion in the first round. Even Alistair Overeem by, why not, head kick KO. He is an animal in Alistair Overeem. Hopefully this is the only obstacle he has to get over before they schedule him against the heavyweight champion and we get to see the Reem fight for that belt finally.
Sweet baby Jesus. I hope you are right with that prediction, Jake. I would love to see Overeem get the head kick knockout over Bigfoot Silva. I mean, these two guys, it's the heavyweight battle of the biggest, most juiced up freaks in the UFC right now. They're going to come into this fight. They're going to be roided to the fucking gills. I can guarantee it. They're going to be pissing hot. And I tell you what, I just hope we get to see some more blood. My prediction for this one is Overeem lands a straight right on Bigfoot's freakish jaw. He breaks his hand and knocks Bigfoot out in the process. So I'm seeing that a easy knockout for Overeem.
I gotta agree. This damn fight, Overeem and Bigfoot, that's gonna be a fun fight to watch. It's gonna be a fucking freak show. This thing is, I'm not even gonna bet this fight just so I can enjoy it. You know, like. If a fight's good enough and ridiculous enough like this, I don't even bet it, just so I can enjoy it more. You know, it doesn't matter who wins in this one. I think we all know Overeem's gonna take it, but it's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be, this thing is, it ain't even gonna be a UFC fight. It's gonna be like watching the WWE. All right, I'm hoping at one point the ref gets distracted, starts looking away, and there's eye gouges and fucking fish hooks, and I hope it plays out just ridiculous as it looks. And my prediction, if I have to give one, Overeem's going to win by fucking chair smash to the head of Bigfoot. Knockout.
Yeah, this is like Bigfoot looked pretty good in his last fight, and he's a scary guy, but Overeem's got all the skill in the world. I mean, it's one thing being big, but when you've got the skill and the technique of someone like Overeem, and we've seen it against Brock Lesnar, who, you know, is obviously a beast as well, but he couldn't hang with Overeem. Overeem will keep the fight standing, and he'll blast his legs. He'll look for the body shots because he likes to do the body shots, and he'll get a knockout. I'll be very surprised if this fight makes it out of round one.
Good night, Irene!
Good night.
This is the absolute perfect matchup in the division for Alistair Overeem. They were originally slated to fight each other in the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix. Fortunately, Overeem went over to the UFC, and Fedor Emelianenko, I believe, replaced. No, Cormier. Cormier replaced Overeem in that semifinal. So this fight is tailor-made for Alistair Overeem. You have a guy who can't take a punch, gets dominated by guys who could fight at light heavyweight, as well as has a giant head as a target. Alistair Overeem has some fantastic kickboxing skills. His fundamentals are awesome. Yeah, a lot of people say he was glass-jawed at 205, but at this point in Alistair Overeem's career, there's a reason why he's so successful. His neck doesn't whiplash because he doesn't have a neck. When you get knocked out, it's either on the temple or it's your neck snapping and that impact of your brain hitting the skull, which doesn't happen when he's at heavyweight because there's no room for movement with his neck. It doesn't move. So I think fundamentally Alistair Overeem wins. I think his aggressive style is perfect. Bigfoot is a slower kind of a heavyweight. And if you match up ground games, Alistair Overeem, I don't see him getting submitted. He kind of stifled Fabricio Verdum. So I think when this fight happens, my favorite fighter of all time will win.
Alistair Overeem, I think all of us agree that he definitely outmatches Bigfoot in that fight. Probably what's going to be a little bit closer of a fight, we might see a little more discourse between the five of us. Sorry we didn't mention, if you're listening and you're like, where the fuck did Dave go? Did you all kill Dave? What the shit is going on? Dave, actually, he is a giant Buffalo Bills fan, and being Thursday night, his Bills are playing, so he had to dip out and go catch some brews.
No, we killed Dave.
Friends. And then when he said he had to leave, we killed Dave. So yeah, rest in peace, Dave. Moving on to the other UFC 156 matchup, Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida. I've heard rumors that it might get pushed to 157 because 156 is shaping out to be such a stacked card, but for the rest of the pod, because we haven't heard anything official, we'll just assume it's going to be at UFC 156. Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida, and what likely will be a title eliminator for the winner of John Jones and Chael Sonnen. Man, this is going to be a really great fight. I have Henderson personally. I think, Lyoto Machida, he is great. He is an excellent counter striker, has pretty good takedown defense, but he hasn't fought a wrestler like Dan Henderson. Henderson's a stronger wrestler than Rashad Evans. Like Chris mentioned yesterday in our episode of the MMA podcast, comes from that Roman Greco style.
Greco-Roman.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Greco-Roman style. Wait, did I say it again? Fuck it. Moving on. He was a USA Olympian backup. Just really, really great fighter. And I see Hendo. I don't know if he's going to be able to land the H-bomb because, like his teammate Anderson Silva, Machida is excellent at not getting hit. But yeah, I see Dan Henderson winning this fight and going on to fight the winner of John Jones versus Chael Sonnen. And either way, there would be a lot of interesting storylines if Henderson fought either guy.
This fight is definitely one that's now is the perfect time for Hendo and Machida to fight each other. It's like the perfect storm coming together. They're both at pretty much the same stage in their career, I'd have to say. They've done it. They've been there for the championships. They're both solid fighters still. This one's gonna be. This is gonna be a fucking fight worth watching, and I don't think anybody can really call it. Machida's got the skill. Hendo's got the power. Machida's got. I think we're gonna see 3 rounds. Definitely, it'll probably go to a decision. Because I don't think Machida can knock out Hendo, and I don't think Hendo can land the right hand the way he needs to on Machida. Machida is elusive. He knows what to avoid. There's only one limb to avoid swinging at him. He'll be able to do that for 3 rounds. That's for damn sure. Actually, if they're headlining, they might even have to make it 5 rounds. I don't know. Either way, they're going to go the distance. I just wish. If I could wish one thing for this fight, it's a little. I got really stoned last night, and I was thinking maybe.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm actually fucking. I have the pipe in my hand right now as we speak. It's shaking.
Allegedly.
Right. I'll try to. Yeah. But anyway, I when I was maybe or maybe not high, I had the thought maybe for the future UFCs, what they're going to do is they're going to build the octagon cage. They're going to use lead, and then they're going to flood the octagon with X-rays, okay? So that, when they're punching each other and you see somebody cave in somebody's ribs, when they do the replay, it's going to actually be the X-ray, and you're going to see that shit, just all those ribs break and shit. And if they do that with the Hendo versus Machida fight, you're going to see Machida's hands fucking breaking left and right trying to knock out Dan Henderson, all right? There's no way he has enough power to knock out Henderson. He can knock out a lot of other people. He got Rashad. That was lucky. But Hendo, you ain't knocking him out. Sorry, Karate Kid. That's it. Stoned X-ray fight. I have this fight going the distance, and it's going to be a draw.
And in related news, no other UFC fighter ever has a kid ever again. Sorry, go ahead, Ray.
I think this is going to be a brilliant fight. I mean, it's just 2 of the best guys in obviously in the light heavyweight division. These are the kind of fights that you want to see, and this is the difference between mixed martial arts and boxing. You don't get to see the big fights in boxing. They're so busy feeding the big guys with no named crap opponents that no one really cares about, and they're so busy ducking each other. But with MMA, you get to see the best versus the best, and this is a prime example of that. You've got the power of Dan Henderson, and obviously we know what Henderson's going to do. He's looking for that big punch all the time. We saw what he did to Shogun, for the first few rounds, and he caught Shogun with some big shots. Then you've got Machida, who's elusive, who's looking for strikes. We can throw punches, he can throw kicks. He's very hard to take down because he's got great counter wrestling. But it seems to me that the more difficult the opponent Machida faces, the more likely he is of getting a stoppage. I mean, I remember when Machida first joined the UFC, and I saw him fight live in the UK, and when he was fighting the lesser known guys, like the Sam Hoger and David Heath, he was winning by decision, and he wasn't. Not only was he not just winning by decision, but he wasn't looking good winning. And then he steps up in competition and he faces the likes of Thiago Silva and Rashad Evans, and he's getting the knockouts. And then obviously, of course, we had that crazy kick against Randy Couture, and he gets another. It just seems that the tougher the opponent, the more impressive he wins. So I'm thinking we're going to get to see Machida is going to knock Dan Henderson out, and I'm going to call a front kick. We're going to see another front kick from Machida.
Ooh, strong prediction. Dig it, Ray. Dig it. That is a very strong prediction. Man, these guys are fantastic. Hendo has had one of the most brilliant career resurgences of all time. I mean, to win a championship after a dominating loss to a guy who's not doing well in Jake Shields, to go from that to knocking out Babalu, dominating Rafael Cavalcante, knocking out Fedor, one of the greatest of all times, and then a fight of the decade against Shogun. I have a lot of respect for that man. What a fantastic fighter. And then we have Machida, who, don't really need to say much, has looked kind of flat lately at certain points against Rampage. He did knock out Couture, but he put it all together in knocking out Ryan Bader in not only impressive fashion, but he caught Bader, and then as Bader was falling, he caught him with a second shot to the jaw, which put him out. So not only did he hit him with a hard shot, but then on the way down knocked him out. That's super impressive. As far as how they stack up, man, it's a really tough call. You guys brought up some excellent points. Dan Henderson has the H-bomb. He has that Greco-Roman wrestling. He's fought some of the best in the world. I just think that this is a stylistic nightmare for Dan Henderson. I think that all of his tank, characteristics where he just pressures and gets in your face and uses that clinch game, it's not going to work against Machida, man. He's a judo black belt, he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, a Shotokan karate black belt, and has fought some of the best in the game himself. And I think that Machida is too young, too fast, and too smart. I've got Machida winning by an impressive finish. I can't call it like Ray did, some crazy snap kick or jumping kick, front kick, but I do have a feeling that he will finish Dan Henderson most likely by a KO or TKO. I don't really see him submitting him, so that's my call.
Wow. This is a fight. These are two of my favorite fighters. And they pretty much always have been ever since I've been watching mixed martial arts, and especially ever since I was introduced to Lyoto Machida. And actually, now that I think about it, Lyoto Machida knocked Rich Franklin out really savagely. I don't know why that just popped in my head. I could just see the image of that head kick knockout he had over Rich Franklin, and I'm really hoping something similar doesn't happen to Dan Henderson. He's easily, I think if Dan Henderson were to win this fight, he really makes a strong shot for the greatest of all time nominations. I mean, Pride middleweight champion, Pride light heavyweight champion. He knocked Fedor Emelianenko clean out. No one has ever done that. I think even Fedor's loss against Verdum, you could say, oh well, he rushed in, he got sloppy. A lot of fans were kind of willing to overlook the fight. The Bigfoot Silva fight, you could say, well, that was a doctor stoppage. Fedor wanted to continue. Who knows how that would have turned out in round 3? Fedor could have easily came out and knocked him out. There's no disputing his loss to Dan Henderson, though. Hendo just put him out. He had him slumped and stumped and chumped, and it was just a beautiful thing to witness. But like it's been alluded to, this is just a horrific style nightmare for Dan Henderson with Lyoto Machida. Dan Henderson's going to need to work to counter himself. He's going to have to go in. He's going to have to put himself in harm's way. He's going to have to use his standard going forward in stalking style, and he's going to have to catch Machida missing, and that is going to be hard as fuck. Shogun's the only person we've seen catch him like that. He does have a decision loss to Rampage, which has kind of been an issue of debate as to whether he really should have lost in that fight. God damn, I would not. If I had to bet money, I would put it on Machida, as sad as that makes me in my heart. Fuck. But Dan Henderson, he is my boy. I can't pick against him. So pure fanboy picking Dan Henderson to get the knockout.
True. So it looks like we got 2 for Machida and 3 for Henderson there. Let's hit one more topic before we close it out. UFC 156 looking super stacked as hell. You have Aldo Edgar, Overeem Silva, and Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida. Out of those 3 fights, what do you think is the best? I've got to stick with Aldo Edgar because that is the best title fight on the horizon. Edgar is the best title challenger you'll see in a long, long time, and he's going to give Jose Aldo a test that he has not ever seen, right?
My favourite fight out of them, I mean, they're all epic fights. But if I was to say, someone said to me, right, you can only watch one of these fights. Which one would you pick? I'd go for Hendo Machida. That fight just gets me excited. I just can't. I don't know how that's going to play out. I just want to see how it plays out. I think it's a brilliant fight. 2 of the best, not just in the division, but 2 of the best in the world.
Yeah, man. I honestly can't remember what I picked for the MMA podcast, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and say, with a clear mindset and a new day, I'm gonna have to go with Alistair Overeem, just for the fact that I think he deserves that next title shot, regardless of the testosterone thing. He's still my favorite fighter, and it is a fight that I think he can easily win and showcase his skills. Bigfoot is a big guy with a big punch, but Alistair Overeem really, really is my favorite guy ever. So to see him compete again, I think I'll get more chills and more excitement over that than I would the other 2 fights. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, for my...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, terribly sorry. Pardon me, Ramsey.
Whoa.
Holy shit! Hold up. For me, I like Aldo Edgar as the biggest fight in this one. This is just gonna be a crazy matchup. I love the Machida Hendo fight. These guys, they're 2 legends in my mind. It's gonna be great. That should be a brutal affair, no matter how that shakes out. But for me, I think Aldo Edgar has just as good a chance to end violently as either of those fights. And I think out of all 3 of these fights, if any of them were to go to a decision, I think Aldo Edgar would probably be the most entertaining one of those, because none of these guys aren't going to slow. They're not going to slow up over this over the course of the 105-pound championship bout. And especially not Frankie Edgar. And that might be the most definitive advantage, if we could glean that from the careers of Edgar and Aldo, is I think the cardio of Edgar. He's not going to slow down. Of course, some of those Jose Aldo leg kicks might change that. But I'll take Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar. That's the one I think would be exciting.
The best fight at UFC 156 is going to be Hendo Machida, but the fun fight is, of course, going to be Overeem Silva. That one, like I said, it's going to be a freak show, and it's going to be a one-sided battle. I don't think anybody's going to bet on Bigfoot on this one. Overeem's going to run through him. The people are just going to watch this fight just to see how badly he does run through him. But the actual fight with actual technical skills on both sides being utilized, and then just because of the 2 names alone, these guys are both fucking legends. Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida. That's going to be the best fight on the card. It should be a headliner. I don't know why it won't be. It's a damn shame. And like I said, I have that fight. I have it as a draw right now, and I am fucking serious.
Damn. Well, which do you think is the most exciting out of Aldo Edgar, Overeem Silva, and Hendo Machida?
Overeem and Silva is going to be the most exciting. Just because everybody's going to be, it's going to be like watching somebody do like bike tricks or something. It's going to be like when your uncles get drunk and start a fight at the barbecue. All right, it's just fun to watch. Everybody just having a good time, laughing their asses off at these 2 Cro-Magnon idiots. So that's going to be the most exciting fight. But the actual best fight, as far as skills go, Hendo Machida.
All right, Ray, you want to shout out the last remaining Fight Buster before we put a bow on this bitch?
Yeah, so we shouted out 3 Fight Busters earlier on, but 2 of them have already been got by our very clever members of the podcast. So the one that's left, then clue number 1 is you've got to think cryptically. You've got to get into my mind. Clue number 1: I'll have some coffee with the doctor and then go to the toilet. That is clue number 1 for this week's Fight Buster.
And if you think you know it, you can tweet Ray or myself. Ray's at MMA Mental. I'm at the MMA Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to Ramses, too. Very, very strong showing on his first appearance on the Roundtable. Looking forward to having him on a little bit more. Actually, next week we're not going to be having a Roundtable, being that it's Thanksgiving next Thursday. We're going to take a 2-week break from today and come back the Thursday after next Thursday, which will be November 29th. Break down that GSP Condit fight for you. You can tune in then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Ray, you want to shout out MMA Mental one more time before we send it out?
Yeah, check out this week's podcast. We were joined by Rich Rarebreed Hale, and I'm sure Patrick would agree. It was a brilliant interview. We had him on for 30 minutes, and he was such a pleasure to speak to. And keep a lookout. Coming up shortly, we've got Fight Diaries. We're going to do a daily audio diary with fighters on the week leading up to their fight. So far, we've signed 4 guys to do it. Paul the Titan Taylor, which is he's a UK heavyweight. We've got Spencer Hewitt, who's a bantamweight making his debut at BAMA. We've got a huge prospect in the 6'7" middleweight Omar Frederick, who's amateur at the minute. He's 18 years old, but he's got a hell of a future ahead of him. And then our biggest coup so far, we've got Rich Rarebreed Hale, who's going to do a show with us on the build-up to his Bellator heavyweight final, which is going to be very, very exciting.
That is goddamn excellent.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. As always, we will have an MMA podcast next Wednesday. You can check us out on Twitter at the MMA Podcast, themmapodcast.com. Future guest, we are for sure having the voice of pride, Lenny Hart, on. And not Lenny Hart on, but we're having Lenny Hart on the podcast next Wednesday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And until next week, if you're listening to MMA Mental or the MMA Podcast, or 2 weeks from now, if you're just listening to the MMA Roundtable, we will see you later. And we're going to send... And we're going to send it out this week with a special song dedicated to our new member of the Roundtable, Ramses. And we go.
We go.
And we go.
We go.
Ay, ay, ay.
I am singing at the party. I am singing, it's my turn to sing at the party. Everyone is dancing, happy party. But Ramses is not dancing, he does not dance at the parties. At night I play my games, I go to sleep, I think of Ramses. The people in the streets, they give him treats, they give him candy. Will he ever lose? We'll never know, he'll never fight these. Ramses is the greatest, even though he runs with bandits. Ramses number 1, he knows the secrets of desire. Ramses number 1, he puts the people all on fire. Ramses number 1, he likes to run down to the playa.